Okay, we're going to continue on with exercise 4, where we're going to dive into the managed scenario of the ABAP RESTful application programming model. And again, the RAP model um, provides a framework for developers to quickly create applications, um, focusing mainly on the business object itself as opposed to the nuts and bolts of the underlying application. So again, with the managed scenario, uh, the framework basically handles the create, update, and delete operations for you. Whereas if you did the exercise 3, the unmanaged scenario, you've noticed that you as the developer is very much responsible for the implementation of those operations. Here in the managed scenario, we get a break and the framework handles that stuff for us, which is really nice. Um, so in the managed scenario, we concentrate mainly on the business object, the business logic, and adding in custom actions and validations on certain fields. So we'll do that here today in this exercise. I have to warn you, if you did exercise 3, the unmanaged scenario, the first 60-70% of this is basically a repeat of the unmanaged scenario. The steps are basically the same up until you get to the point where you're creating your behavior definition and the implementations. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we want to do again is to create our lowest level business object layer, so our business object views. So we'll go ahead and start creating those. So in data definitions, I'm going to say new data definition, and I'm going to give it a name slightly different than what we've created before. ZI travel M for managed, XXX where XXX is your group number, travel view, next, and finish. And then we're going to, for this first one, take it step by step. We're going to update our SQL view name, ZI travel M XXX, and then going to update the define statement here slightly. We're going to say define root view, the name of our view, select from /DMO /travel underscore M. So this is actually the underlying tables that we're going to use in this exercise are actually different tables than what we used in the unmanaged scenario. So we're going to keep them separate. And we'll put our composition and association statements in here. So composition to the booking view, which I have yet to create, and then associations to agency, customer, and currency. And then let's go ahead and put our columns in here. Like so. This looks good. Getting an error on this composition here. Again, that's because I haven't created it yet. We'll go ahead and save this. And we're going to go ahead and continue to create our view. So new data definition. So ZI travel booking M XXX booking view. Next, finish. And this time I'm just going to copy and paste the whole thing in here. So my SQL view name, define view booking, selecting from /DMO /booking M, right? So the other set of tables that we're using here, association to parent, the view that I just created and not activated yet, and a composition association to booking supple, which we haven't created yet, association to customer, carrier, and connection. And then the the names of my columns here. Okay, go ahead and save that. We'll create the last one, just so we could shorten the name a little bit. Going to use slightly different name than what we used last time. ZI booking supple underscore M XXX for booking supplement view. Next, finish. And we'll go ahead and copy and paste that in here. So define view, select from DMO booking supple M, association to parent booking, association to travel, association to supplement and supplement text, and then the names of our columns here. So I can save that. Now at this point, I can go ahead and save all of them. So let's go ahead, or I can activate all of them at the same time. So let's go ahead and select these views here and say activate. And hopefully we don't have any problems. Looks good. No issues. So we can continue on. We can create our behavior definition and implementation. So we can go here to our root view, travel M, and say new behavior definition. And like in exercise 3, we had this dialog box and we changed this to unmanaged. And here we're just going to leave it as managed because we're going to do this the managed way. Okay. So next and finish. And then you can see here that it puts this managed up here for us. And we have a shell of our behavior definition here for each one of our views. So travel M, booking M, and supplement M, right? So we're going to modify this based on our needs here. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we'll do, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this in here. I'm going to replace what I have in the document here, just like this. So I set an alias here. I set, I'm telling what implementation class we're going to be using for this behavior definition. The persistent table that we're over top of, in this case, travel M is the persistence table, so it knows what to update in the framework. And then the E tag would be last changed at, so that would how it would identify the last changed, what changes have been made since the last change. And then we're going to support create, update, and delete operations, and of course association to booking. So when a travel record is created, we also assume that a booking record that's tied to that travel record will be created at the same time. So again, these operations we're going to support. In the unmanaged scenario, we'd have to implement each one of these operations. In this case, the framework's going to handle it for us. Okay, so let's move on to booking and do the same thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in here. So again, giving it an alias booking, implementation class, it would be this. Persistence table is booking M. Okay, block dependent upon the travel ID. And again, the E tag master here is last changed at. It will support update and delete with this behavior definition, an association for the creation of the booking supplement here. And then finally, booking supplement. Basically the same thing here, alias, the implementation class. The persistent table here is book supple L underscore M, right? E tag master will be last changed at, lock dependent upon the travel ID. And of course, we're supporting update and delete here. So again, create, update, and delete in the booking, and update and delete in the booking supplement, all going to be handled for us by the framework. Okay. Let's go ahead and save that. and go ahead and activate that at this time. All right, so in the last exercise, now would be the time that we would actually continue on and create implementations um, for our behavior definition. We're not going to do that right now because again, all of our operations here are being handled for us from the framework. So we're going to continue on and create our projection views, which would then filter our columns depending on what we want to expose or our particular um, um, operations that we want to expose to. So let's go ahead and create some new views here. So new data definition, and then it's going to be travel ZC travel M XXX. So travel protection view and finish. And we're going to go ahead and copy the code from the exercise here. So ZC travel M XXX as projection on over top of our monolithic business object here, travel M. And then the name of my columns, I have some value helps built into here as well. Yeah, so this looks good. I can go ahead and create my, I just saved that. I didn't activate it yet because there's a dependency on booking. So I'll go ahead and create another one called ZC Booking M. Booking projection view. Next, finish. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this code in here. I'm sure nobody wants to watch me type this. Okay, so again, define view entity, ZC Booking M, as projection on our iBooking M view, right? Key fields, other columns, consumption value help definitions here. So we're building in the value help directly here. And then our associations to travel and booking supplement, which I have yet to create. So I'll go ahead and create that now. New definition. Let's see here. Booking supple M. Booking supplement view. Projection view. Projection view. There you go. Next. Finish. And I will copy and paste this code in as well. Again, define view entity, CC booking supplement M on projection as projection on booking supplement M, the business object. Our columns, some value help built in here, right? Go ahead and save that. And we can go ahead and activate these as well, all at one time. Activate. Hopefully we don't have any problems. Okay, that looks fine. Okay, we'll get rid of these. Next is to create our metadata extensions. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's right click on our view here and say new metadata extension. We'll use the same name, CC travel M, travel MDE. Next, finish. Copy and paste this in here. Again, this is a definition of our user interface using these UI annotations here. This is specific for our managed view here. So we'll go ahead and save that. We can activate that as well. And we'll create another one for booking. Metadata extension. give it the same name, booking MDE, finish. Basically the same thing here. Our UI annotations for bookings. Go ahead and save and activate that. We'll create the last one. New metadata extension. Call it the same thing. Booking supplement MDE. Next, finish. We'll copy and paste this code in as well. Okay, save and activate. So again, I mentioned that a lot of this is very similar to what we did with the unmanaged scenario. So let's go ahead and create our projection behavior definition. Select our travel projection view and say new behavior definition. And it says projection here is implementation type. I'll say finish. Okay, so it gives us our shell of our behavior definition here. Basically, just going to add some some aliases here, and I'm going to comment out the delete in the first one. But I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these changes from the actual exercise document here. So what I've done here is just added in aliases for each one of these, and I've commented out the delete operation for each one of these. So again, this is how I'm limiting the functionality that's being exposed from the monolithic business object layer. I'm limiting the functionality when it comes to exposing this to the end user or our application. And this is where we can play with this. At some point, you can come back in here and uncomment this, and then you can see that you have the ability to do the delete. But for now, we'll go ahead and make it so that you can't do any deletions on any of these rows. Go ahead and save that and activate. Okay. Now we can go ahead and create our service definition and service binding. So let's go to our business services, service definition, new service definition. Let's give it a name. ZSDC Travel M for managed, XXX. Service definition for travel. Next, finish. Go ahead and copy and paste the short amount of code that we need for this. So we're going to expose the ZC Travel M, XXX, Booking M, and Booking Supplement M. Go ahead and save and activate that. Okay, we'll go ahead and create our service binding, right-clicking on the service definition that we just created, and choosing new service binding. We'll give it a name, ZUIC Travel M, XXX, service binding for travel. The binding type here is ODataB2 UI, and we'll click Next, and finish. Okay, next step is to activate. So we'll go ahead and activate that. Okay, great. Looks good. And then finally, we can go ahead and preview. So let's select travel and click preview. And then we get our browser opened. We'll go ahead and log in here. Hopefully, we get something. Okay, we've logged in here, and you can see that we have our columns here: travel ID, agency ID, customer ID, starting date, end date. But there's not a whole lot of data in here. I can click Go here. This is a record that I created the other day. So there most likely your tables will be empty, in which you'd have to go ahead and click your create button here to actually create your own data. So you can go ahead and do that if you don't see any data here. Just a matter of putting in the values and clicking save here. And again, the actual updating of the underlying tables all handled for you by the framework. We didn't write any code to do that. Okay. We also didn't write any code to do any validation against any of these fields. So that's what we're going to do in the next section is to write some code to validate our entries into this service. Let's go ahead and cancel this and return back to ABAP development tools and Eclipse. So let's go back to our monolithic behavior definition for so not the projection or consumption view behavior definition, but our business object layer definition. What we're going to do here is we're going to add in some additional validations. So after the delete statement within our first section here, we're going to add in validations. So keyword validation, and then the name of the validation would be validate customer. On save is when I want this to be triggered, and then the field associated with that is the customer ID. Same with the validation for dates, right? On save, and then the fields I want to use here are begin date and end date, okay? So we can go ahead and save and activate that. So now here's where we have to actually write logic for this, right? So before we didn't have any behavior definition implementations because all of our operations were being handled for us by the framework. Now we have to create an implementation class to write code for these validations. So let's go ahead and right click on the behavior definition. Oops. For our business object view and say new behavior implementation. And what will we say up here? Implementation class ZBPI travel M. So that's what we're going to call it. ZBPI travel M. Okay. And we'll click next and finish. And when we do this, it takes us to the class editor, and you can see that it puts these methods in here for us. Basically, the names of the validations that we specified in the behavior definition itself. So it puts these methods in a local class here in our behavior implementation with the method implementations shells here, and we can just start writing code in here. Okay. So it looks like the editor is put in some new syntax for us here in the shell of our implementation, and we're not going to use the new syntax here. So we'll go ahead and replace these two method definitions with the ones that are in the exercise document itself. So validate customer for validation travel. Travel validate customer importing keys for travel, and the same for dates here. Again, the editor put in some new syntax in here, which may not be compatible with our implementation. So we're going to go ahead and keep the older syntax for right now. So go ahead and continue on, and we'll plug in some code for our validate customer method. So basically here we're reading the entity for the customer ID, bouncing against the database to make sure that it's valid. If it's not valid, then we're going to report a message to the caller. It's basically what's happening here. Very similar in structure for the validate dates. Let's go ahead and plug that code in. Reading the entity again for the begin and end dates. You're just checking to make sure that the end date is the beginning date and end date are in the right order. Reporting to the front end with messaging if we have a problem there. Okay. This looks fine. We'll go ahead and save and activate this. And then once again, we can return to our preview. Go ahead and refresh here to make sure we pick up the changes. Okay, so again, I already have one record out there. If you don't have a record out there already, go ahead and click the create button to actually create one. I'm just going to dive in here into the record that I created. So we'll put in a customer ID that I don't think exists and try to click save. And it gives me a message saying that the customer does not exist. Let's check our dates. So let's make the start date after the end date and click save. Yeah, so now I'm getting another message that the end date, the start date can't be before the end date. So my validations are working. That's good. Go ahead and cancel out of this. Discard. All right, let's return to our exercise. So let's continue a little bit. We're going to add some field attributes and some custom actions to our behavior. So let's return to the metadata extension for ZC Travel, metadata extension ZC Travel M. And we're going to go ahead and modify the annotation for travel status. So travel status is here. This is the UI annotation for it. We're going to get rid of that and update it with basically we're defining an accept and reject button here. So that's what this code is doing. So we go ahead and click save here and activate. Now let's go back to our view. No, I'm sorry. Let's go back to our business object behavior definition. And before the create statement, we're going to add in some field statements here. So we're going to make the agency ID, overall status, booking fee, currency code. We're going to make those all mandatory. And then we have this field features here, which basically what this is going to allow us to do is get access to these particular features, mandatory, things like that within the implementation itself. So you'll see that in a second. And then before the validation statements, let's go in and add some custom actions. So a custom action for accepting travel, or a custom action for rejecting the travel record. Okay, so let's go ahead and save, activate this. Now that we've put in that into our business object view, let's go ahead and go to our projection behavior definition. So ZC Travel M, I'm sorry. And we'll actually add in another one here, another two, use action, accept travel, or reject travel. So we put this in our lower level business object behavior definition. Now we have to say that we can use those two actions in our projection or our consumption behavior definition. Let's go ahead and save and activate here. Now we have to implement these two actions. So if we return to our implementation class, travel M, and if we go here and add two new methods, set status completed and set status canceled. So for each one of these, we have to enter our implementation. So let's scroll down to the end, and we'll put the implementation for it, set status completed here. Basically, we're reading or updating the entities based on which one selected, and we can toggle the value on and off here. Okay. Let's do the same for set status canceled. Set status canceled method. Okay. So our implementation is complete. We have our methods, set status completed or set status canceled, depending on if the end user click the accept travel or the reject travel buttons. We can go ahead and save and activate here. Then I mentioned about having control with the feature or the field attributes such as like mandatory or required or something like that. We can have access within our implementation, and the way we do this is via another method called get features. And if we copy and paste this. So again, with this method, where we get the ability to manipulate some of the features, the field attributes. Um, for example, in this case, we're toggling the enable or disable of the reject and accept buttons based on the value of the travel record itself. So we're able to do this in the implementation here. Okay. We're good here. This is active. Now we can go ahead and return to our preview. And we refresh the page. We should see some new buttons, reject travel and accept travel here. So if I click go and I select my row here and I can click, you can see that based on the value of the status, it's allowing me to reject but not allowing me to accept. That's that feature toggle that we implemented in the last step there. So I can click reject travel, and then it changes the value. And then, of course, now that it's the other value, now it enables the travel button. So we can go back and forth here, right? So that's really it for the managed approach when it comes to the ABAP RESTful application programming model. I mean, we can get way more involved in this, but this is, these exercises are designed to get you in there and get something created quickly so that you can have a good foundation and a basis of your learning. I hope you find these exercises helpful, and look forward to producing some more content for you in the future. Thanks.